London is a city built on ghosts. Walk through the financial district today, and everything feels clean, sharp, modern: glass towers, polished stone, the constant hum of traffic and screens. But under that asphalt is another London, buried like a sealed chapter: timber beams, cracked bone, soot stained brick, forgotten alleyways. For centuries, the real face of medieval London has been something we only guessed at through faded sketches, scattered records, and the cold language of chronicles. But now, by combining historical sources with modern artificial intelligence, we can do more than imagine it. We can reconstruct it, not as a fantasy, but as a living environment, street by street, wall by wall, stone by virtual stone. This isn't just a story about the past, it's a resurrection. In the medieval era, London wasn't the sprawling city we know. It was a confined world, a trappistone. The edge of life was defined by the old Roman wall, roughly 2 miles of hard barrier, rising around 20 feet high, circling the city like a clenched fist. Inside that ring, London became a pressure chamber of humanity. By the 14th century, close to 40,000 people were packed into about a single square mile, crammed together in a dense knot of timber frames, clay infill, smoke, and noise. To enter, you didn't drift in casually. You passed through one of the great gates: Ludgate, Newgate, Aldersgate, Cripplegate, Moorgate, Bishopsgate, or Aldgate. And these weren't just arches. They were controlled choke points, fortified posts, toll stations, and sometimes prisons. Cross beneath the stone, and you left open countryside behind, and you stepped straight into a wall of smell and sound. This was a city made for feet, not for flow. Lanes twisted where they pleased, without plan, without symmetry, shaped by centuries of desperate expansion. Streets were so narrow that carts scraped against walls. And because space was everything, Londoners didn't spread outward, they stacked upward. Houses leaned over the road as they rose, each upper floor jutting farther out, as if the buildings were trying to steal air for themselves. In many places, those overhangs nearly touched, turning alleyways into dim corridors where sunlight struggled to reach the ground. Even at midday, parts of the city felt like twilight. To the east, looming over the river and the wooden sprawl, stood the city's most intimidating silhouette, the Tower of London. At its center rose the White Tower, not a symbol built for comfort, but for fear. After 1066, William the Conqueror ordered it, constructed as a statement carved in stone, a foreign king planting a permanent threat into the skyline. It was built from pale cane stone shipped from France, designed to shine bright against the darker city, a literal monument of conquest, using foreign rock to remind the native population who owned them. Over time, the tower became a fortress city in miniature. Kings layered it with thick curtain walls, defensive rings, and a deep moat fed by the Thames. It served as a royal residence, a treasury, even a mint, but its reputation belonged to something colder. It held secrets. It held prisoners, to be brought in through Traitor's Gate, slipping under the damp stone archway from the river, was often to vanish from ordinary life. And inside, the silence wasn't empty. It was heavy, the kind of silence that swallows names. Yet the tower wasn't the only place where the Thames shaped London's power. The river was the city's artery, and the bridge was its grip. For centuries, London Bridge was the only way to cross the Thames on foot. That meant everything coming from the south, people, carts, animals, goods, was forced through one bottleneck. But medieval London Bridge wasn't simply a crossing. It was a town built over water. Completed in 1209, it sat on 19 uneven stone arches, defended by a drawbridge and fortified gatehouses. From a distance, you might not even recognize it as a bridge. It looked like a street floating above the river, lined with shops, stalls, and houses climbing up to 7 stories high, leaning precariously over rushing water. Crossing it was an assault on the senses. The walkway was tight, often blocked by carts, livestock, and crowds. Noise echoed between the buildings, and below, the stone arches acted like a dam, squeezing the Thames through narrow gaps. The current accelerated into violent rapids, with a drop of several feet. Boatmen called it shooting the bridge, and many died trying. And at the southern gatehouse, London displayed its warning. Iron spikes, crowned with severed heads, tarred to preserve them, pecked by birds, staring out over the road like a brutal welcome sign. This was law made visible. Obedience demanded in public. If the bridge was the city's throat, the highest hill held its soul. Old St. Paul's Cathedral. We know St. Paul's today as Christopher Wren's domed masterpiece, but the medieval cathedral was something else entirely, a vast Gothic beast, sprawling in stone and stained glass, dwarfing the city around it. By the 14th century, it was among the longest churches in the world, and its most unforgettable feature was its spire, soaring close to 500 feet, one of the tallest structures in Christendom. It punctured the sky like a needle, visible from miles away, acting as a compass for travelers long before they reached the wall. And yet, inside this holy space, reverence didn't always win. The central nave, known as Paul's Walk, functioned as much like a public exchange as a place of prayer. Business deals were made under the pillars. Lawyers met clients. Gossip and news traveled faster than sermons. Prostitutes moved through shadowed corners. Merchants argued over wool, wine, and contracts while the choir's prayers competed with the noise of trade outside at Paul's Siomali Cross. Preachers could gather crowds of thousands, igniting movements, riots, and political storms. The cathedral wasn't just sacred, it was social, economic, and explosive. A place where holiness and hustle collided beneath one leaking roof.